Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Boom Political Vigilante. Truth rises up for the citizens of Gotham. This is the People's Channel. You're the best and smartest fans in all of the internet. We're starting to climb back. We went below 72,000 subscribers. Now we're over because YouTube was unsubscribing, but there's been a new wave of folks coming over. Of course, please start subscribing to the Orange Pill podcast if you're a big Bitcoin supporter, or if you don't know much about it and you want to learn more about Bitcoin. I will be guest hosting in the month of February the Orange Pill podcast. That is Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert's podcast on their YouTube channel. Check out Orange Pill podcast. I will be guest hosting that starting in February, which will be a lot of fun and be really cool. And one of the reasons I bring that up is because when we had Max Kaiser on the show, I think in November, was his second time on the show, he talked about the bond markets. And he's a very knowledgeable guy, Max, and he's predicting all of this stuff. He's like, people aren't buying them. The government is doing all these. Basically, the government is running basically a Ponzi scheme and so I saw this tweet today and I was like, oh, this is another thing Max predicted. Another thing that is like really. So this is from Sid Prabhu. I extremely disturbed by what I witnessed in Lower Manhattan last night. I worked on Wall Street for years near the New York Federal Reserve. And I just joked, hey, Graham, why do you keep talking about Bitcoin so much? See below. So this is what this guy said. Last week, I went to grab a few treasury bonds only to find out that almost everything was trading below par. I asked an employee at the Fed how banks are still solvent if their collateral trades at a discount. He said the Fed lends them more than the value of their bonds at less than the federal funds rate. I was shocked. Next, the employee told me that the banks can even borrow from the Fed and lend it right back and make an immediate arbitrage profit. The Fed can't do anything about it. They've created this corrupt like scam casino. When they do take action against insolvent banks, the executives aren't penalized at all. Well, that's a shocker. And go to different banks where they can arbitrage the Fed all over again. I have no words for what I see happening to this bond market that I no longer recognize. Before I left the Fed, he said this. They give the bankers more power than the regulators. This is somebody at the Federal Reserve said this. The bond market is completely out of control. Why are we empowering? Look at this. Bank term funding program. This is the actual terms of the program. This is why I said buy Bitcoin. You can't. Bitcoin lives on its own. It lives on the blockchain. Wow. To provide liquidity to U.S. depository institution, each Federal Reserve Bank would make advances to eligible borrowers, taking as collateral certain types of securities. As U.S. federally insured depository institution, including a bank, savings association, or credit union, or U.S. branch or agency of a foreign bank that is eligible for primary credit, is eligible to borrow under the program. Eligible collateral includes any collateral eligible for purchase. So this is so let's just go back real quick, because again, I'm not a finance guy. So this is everything was trading below par. How are the banks still solvent if their collateral trades at a discount? So so if I understand this correctly, they're getting a loan from the Federal Reserve. The employee told me that the banks even borrow from the Fed and lend it back to them and make an immediate arbitrage profit. The Fed can't do anything about it. When they do take action against insolvent banks, the executives aren't penalized at all and go to different banks where they can arbitrage the Fed all over again. This is nuts. It's wow. I'm sorry. I just kind of blanked. It's so. And somebody in the chat says Jamie Dimon wants to take mortgages off his bank's balance sheet. I mean, Max told us this in November. Go back and watch the Max Kaiser interview from November where he's like, oh, the bond market is done. Which means these banks are going to start going, more banks are going to go belly up and they're just going to keep propping them up. They're going to backstop all of them. What's that going to do to the dollar? So I have no idea. We'll keep following this, guys. This is why I said years ago on this show, get out of the big banks, go into a credit union, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, but in my opinion, you should take at least 5 to 10% of your assets and buy some Bitcoin with it, even if it's just a couple $100, because this is all going to go belly up. The dollar is going to be worth nothing if we just keep letting these corrupt banks do this stuff. I've talked to you about how bankruptcies are on the rise. I've showed you how car loan defaults are on the rise. They're like breaking records on those. Commercial real estate is like losing its value. And then the bond market stuff. Oh, isn't it great when the Federal Reserve is basically an illegal banking cartel that just lets the banks do whatever they want and prints money for them? Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, and shave your knuckles for justice. And support our show. Like, share, subscribe. Go to GrahamElwood.com, sign up for the newsletter. Boom.